listening to the Hometown Losers, the St. Louis Sports Podcast, with Josh, Adam, and OJ.
Hey everybody, welcome back here to the Hometown Losers Podcast. This is session number 30, the big 3-0. I am joined always here by my co-hosts and OJ and Adam. Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight?
Glad to be back, and can't believe we're already up to 30. Wow, we're getting so old here.
Right. It is a little nuts.
True.
And it was actually funny. So I was taking a look at it from our prior sessions because I got kind of curious. We started at November of last year in 2022, the very beginning of it. So we are actually pretty darn close to being a year into doing the podcast. It's kind of nuts.
Wow.
8
Time
months.
flies.
Yeah. But it's been a lot of fun, honestly. I enjoy to right? I mean, it's crazy, and it's I enjoy the hell out of it. It's so much fun to do and to talk sports with you guys. So just say almost a year for our anniversary. Maybe we'll have a big shindig for that one. Probably not, but hey, maybe balloons. I'll get a party blower for the listeners.
Wait, what?
All righty, guys. Well, let's go ahead. I'm sorry.
I assume he meant, something else.
I did too, but I heard something.
No. No, party blower, man. Come on, like the thing, the stereotypical thing that people use. Yeah.
Sorry.
Like, get your mind out of the gutter. Good Lord.
Yeah. Well, whenever I think of that, a party blower, all right, let's just go ahead and move on.
Yeah, you think it's something very different.
I was like, wow, it sounds like an awesome party.
I gotta Google this now, but because you like OJ, you got me thinking party blower.
Like
not safe for work.
Party blowers.
Well, first thing you said it, because that's how I think of those things too, because I don't know what you call them.
And then apparently my mind went straight to the gutter. All right, well
yeah.
Way to start session 30 here.
Man.
Oh man.
All right.
Uh-oh.
So,
Jordan
party
Walker.
blowers for all.
What was that, OJ?
Jordan Walker 2-run home run.
That's what's up. All right.
I was gonna say Jordan Walker deserves a party blower for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. My girlfriend has had 37 party blowers in a row.
In a row?
All right. Anyways, let's get to some Cardinals baseball here. Speaking of Jordan Walker, so Cardinals are up right now, right, OJ? I don't have the game up, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. So all of a sudden we're on this run. So just a little bit of an update for the listeners. The Cardinals are now 43 and 53. Yes, they're still 10 games under 500, but they are a lot better than what they've been doing. They're still 10 and a half games back at the Central, 9 games back out for the last wild card spot. However, they've won 5 in a row, and 8 out of their last 10. 8 out of the last 10. They're 8-2 their last 10. In that last 10, they swept the Marlins. They went 2-3 against the Nationals, which I would hope so against the Nationals. And we went 2-3 against the White Sox, which are kind of like average this year at best or below average. But the Marlins have not been doing terrible either this season. So, guys, first and foremost, what's our general thoughts here of this recent surge? I mean, it's kind of crazy that all of a sudden this is starting to happen for us, right?
Well, yeah, but we've done this before, I mean, we've kind of gone through like these little there's a glimmer of hope. Things are finally working out. And for about a week, maybe a couple at most. And then we just kind of go back to the same old shit. I mean, so as exciting as it is, I'm not getting my hopes up because we go through these little streaks and they don't last long. So maybe OJ, since he is Mr. Optimistic, maybe he'll have a different spin on it. But for me, I'm not really looking too deeply into this because, like I said, we're so far out at this point. I don't think that we have a shot in hell. But
yeah. Anyway. So OJ, what's your feelings on it?
We're not. I mean, we're like 10 games back, and we're past the All-Star break at this point. So. And we have to go. What did we say before? Like damn near 700. We're gonna have to win every series out, basically, from this point forward.
68%. So yeah.
Yeah. So the likelihood of that happening are slim to none. But hey, I'll enjoy a few wins here and there, though. So I'm not bitching. But anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your thoughts? Yeah, sorry.
Well, they probably don't have the pitching to go on long streaks because, the reason they're going on a streak right now is because the pitching's working. But all it's going to take is for some of the bullpen guys to start blowing up again.
Yeah.
Gonna go right back to a slump. So it's definitely a little early to be getting too excited, but it has been fun to watch them actually win some games. So I'm enjoying it. And really, it's fun to watch the young guys that they brought up that all seem to be performing pretty well. Like Gorman's starting to heat back up again. So it looks like he's not just, a flash in the pan, hopefully. Jordan Walker's killing it since they called him back up. I mean, his defense still needs work, but he actually is hitting really well. And Ivan Herrera all of a sudden looks like maybe pitcher of the future. So we got some pieces.
The guy we thought he was going to be.
Yeah.
And let's face it, I don't think that this recent surge, it's going to be changing Mo's, plans with the trade deadline coming up.
No,
either.
because
I think go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say too, both of your guys' points here, we need pitching. Even this recent surge, the two things that I see is, OJ, as you pointed up, it's different in younger people stepping up. It's a different person every night, it seems, right? That seems to play the hero. So there's not as much pressure on Goldie or Ornato in that sense. But there's also just been timely hitting overall as a team. Not really the pitching, because if you look at the games, I mean, yes, the pitching has been better, but it's not been like a playoff contender rotation, right? We're just getting more runs than they are. We're still letting up 3, 4, 5 runs.
Yeah. I mean, the run environment is increased dramatically this year across the league. So we do kind of
I agree, but
how we think about a good amount of runs to have given up. That'll happen over time, but I mean, our pitching has been pitching well enough recently. I just don't trust them to keep that up, unfortunately.
Exactly.
But who knows? I mean, they sent Genesis Cabrera out. He was part of the problem. So
yes, he was.
That's one. But,
yeah, and so let me just get to the question then. I think this is kind of something that a lot of people have in the back of their mind right now. Is this stretch actually bad for the Cardinals? Did this have come to a bad time? Yes, they're winning games and stuff like that, but we are getting close to the deadline. Could it change Mo's mind? OJ, what's your thoughts on this? Do you think this is an overall good thing or a bad thing?
It's an overall good thing, especially in a sport of like baseball. I mean, even the number one overall pick is not guaranteed to even be a star, so I'm not excited about a higher draft pick that's going to be 2, 3, 4 years away from probably reaching the big league club still, assuming they actually make it there ever. I'd rather draft a little later and have our younger guys actually contributing meaningfully to a winning environment.
So, what's your take here? I mean, do you believe that this is bad or good for the Cardinals?
No, not at all. I think it's good for the Cardinals, honestly, because their spirits have been, very, down in the dumps. Honestly, they have been, and so have the fans. And this is, we haven't really gone through this as fans, for a very long time. And so it's really been taking a toll on all of us, and I think for those guys like Arenado, it kind of felt like he just sort of was giving up. I mean, you heard it in his comments, like, if I get traded, I get traded. It kind of felt like, if I'm not going to be playing for a winning team, I don't really care. You know what I mean? And that's the impression I got from it. Obviously, you can read it into it any different way you want, but the fact is, these guys obviously want to play for a winning team, and so the more you lose, and the more you're, finishing in last place in the entire league, that's got to take a toll on these guys. So they need to win some, to boost their morale a little bit. Even though we're probably not going to be seeing the playoffs this year, which we know that ship has sailed. But at the very least, let's get out there and win on occasion. But I really don't think this is going to change, the deadline. And if anything, as far as trades go with the deadline, if anything, maybe it'll help us a little bit, because they see that, these players are performing and they would be,
Surging,
they have
yeah.
some value. Yeah, they're surging and they have some value that, some of these teams may be looking to add as well, because we obviously still have to make changes and we still have to pick up pitching. So we have to give up something good along the way. So we want to make sure that we have a good product that's out there that we're advertising. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and see, this is, I mean, I went really back and forth with this one because, in one way I can see it being a really bad thing. I think most of it's positive. So I would say, if for me, if I had to choose one way or the other without, hesitation, I'm going to say this was a positive. But there are some negative things that I see out of this, just for the fact that, again, it technically, not technically, it definitely could change Mo's mind. I don't think so, and he's kind of been very consistent with what he is saying. But it could be also, it kind of validates Mo a little bit, right? So then he all of a sudden goes, "See, this is the team that I thought we were going to be," and it's like, well, all right, Mo, but you still aren't off the hook, because we're now at the trade deadline having to get for pitching, which you should have done at the beginning of the year. If we would have had that pitching,
Yeah.
we would have had a chance of getting
Winning
in the
5
playoffs.
games
You know what I mean?
doesn't justify like, oh, everything's fine now. You know what I mean?
You're
Like,
still 10
no.
games under 500.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
One start to the rotation probably doesn't keep you from being in this kind of situation, honestly.
No, and you're right, OJ, because there's been so much other crap that they've dealt with, especially in the bullpen. But I'm just saying, you don't know what that could have been. You don't know what that could have changed. If say that all of a sudden we, get a pitcher that flips their script and they're winning, 90% of their outings that they're pitching. Well, you got to think that's at least one more win per, because there was a spell there that we had lost, like 12 out of 15. So like at least that's 3 more games right there. You know what I mean? Just using that as an analogy. That you could, bet on having. It wouldn't be as bad, at least. We'd probably be, 500, maybe like 2 or 3 games under 500.
I don't think so, because I mean, a lot of those games were given up by the bullpen. Like, the bullpen's been terrible most of the year. That's a big part of the reason they're losing.
Well, no, I definitely agree with you there. I mean, the bullpen has been absolutely atrocious. But there was 2 outings in a row. For example, Jack Flaherty gave up 6 runs in the first 3 innings. 2 different ones. You know what I mean? So,
anyway.
Yeah, we were at one of those games where he gave up like.
Gonna not be pitching in rotation though. That's the thing. Like, they would have had him in the rotation in all likelihood, especially with the way Wainwright started.
Right, and I'm just using this as a point. I'm not sitting there saying that all of a sudden we're winning the Central or anything. I just believe that even if we had one good starting pitcher, that we'd be closer to 500 than we are currently. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we would be closer. I will agree with you on that. We just disagree on magnitude. That's all.
Yeah, and that's true.
Well, we all agree that we need starting pitching. There's no doubt about it. I mean,
sure.
we all agree on that.
Yeah, especially because it sounds like, given Mozeliak's press conference, it kind of sounds like they basically were doing what I thought they were doing. Like, they were trying to go with a more modern pitching approach and approach to roster construction, not caring as much about defense and all that. And it bit them in the ass because they didn't anticipate how big of a difference it would make to not have a just stud defensive lineup out there when your pitchers are pitching to contact. That's their mistake. And now he says they need to overhaul their system or reevaluate how they handle pitching development and evaluation and all that. So
exactly. Yeah, and there's been a lot more, errors on this with the Cardinals this year than there has been for what, like 4 or 5 years, it feels like. And to your point, OJ, and Adam, we've talked about this as well. We're so used to having like 2 or 3 Golden Glovers, or at least nominees for Golden Glove every single year. So it's just it feels weird that right now the
we
only
lead that.
Yeah, exactly. The only one I see that is even in close to the nomination is still Arenado. So and I don't think he's going to win it, but who knows at this point, right? He still started for the NL in the All-Star game. Who knows?
Yeah, but a lot of that is name recognition too, and the fact that he's been around.
Oh, I know.
I'm not knocking Arenado, but he's been better lately. But as at the time, he was, he would slump. He was slumping.
Yeah. I think that
And
even if you ask him, he would probably admit to it. Sorry, OJ, go on.
I was saying, like, I mean, this last streak, it definitely feels like a team coming out of a daze, like all of a sudden, Arenado's making these great plays, gunning guys out from beyond the foul line. Like, wait, things are starting
Let's
to
see
get
how
back
consistent. Yeah, let's see how consistent we can
Yeah.
actually, it can be.
Consistency is key,
that's
obviously.
off the wall that'll score 2 more by Arenado.
It's my boy, Nato. Yeah, he's actually been on a tear lately. He's been swinging the bat very, very well.
He has, absolutely yes.
Literally happened as we were talking about it.
That's funny.
He's like, I heard
his ears are ringing. Yeah,
I heard you.
yeah. You're welcome.
All right, guys. Well, let's what was that?
I just said you're welcome.
Oh, he went opposite field.
Oh, okay.
Opposite field, gapper to the ball.
Oh yeah. See, I'm telling you, that's when you know Nato is on. He's done that so often in this little stretch that he has been hitting well. Even before the All-Star break, he's been able to get to that right center gap and has been able to drive the ball there. That's a mark of a great hitter when you control and get into that gap because they're shifting in the outfield. So, I mean, or shading at least.
I call that the Matt Carpenter.
Yeah,
doubles for days.
All right, guys. Well, let's transition here and talk a little bit more about the deadline. Obviously, we got a little bit more solidification when it comes to like who's going to stay. I mean, it sounded Jose said that nothing is off the table, but he doesn't foresee Arenado or Goldschmidt leaving, which is obviously very, very good things. But there's also been a lot of. It sounds like a lot of momentum to keep Tommy Edman here, to keep Nolan Gorman here. This is just, rumors that are going around right now. Adam, we start with you. Who do you think's on, the chopping block? I keep seeing like Carlson and Flaherty and stuff like that, right?
Dylan Carlson, I'm seeing his name. Flaherty, Montgomery. Those are all names that I've been seeing floated around. I've been reading, one possible trade with the Yankees, which apparently was, a pretty big deal, for Flaherty and for Carlson, in exchange for one of their pitchers, I believe, and for Bowden. And anyway, I think that those are going to be the names that we're going to see more than likely. I mean, unless there's some blockbuster deal that is going to come out of left field, that's what I'm saying. I don't expect any movement with Arenado or Goldie, especially considering they already have no trade clauses to begin with. I don't think that they want to move at this point. So, I mean, we'll see, but I don't expect any movement with those guys. As much as they were rumored before, I don't see them going anywhere right now. I think that we can build a team with them. I think we need them here to be able to build or continue to build our off on that as well. So I really don't see them really moving anywhere, but we definitely need some pitching, no doubt. So we're going to have to give up, some of those guys in the process. So I've also even heard, the teasers around Newt as well, but I don't know how realistic that is.
And Newt does obviously have a high, stock value. But
Sure.
I don't know if the Cardinals are going to want to let him go, obviously.
Of course.
OJ, what's your thoughts here? I mean, is there anybody, else that you see might be on the chopping block here?
So I think there's two pretty obvious pairs, right? You got Edman and Donovan, and then O'Neill and Carlson. One of each of those pairs is probably going to be traded. So my gut says it'll be O'Neill and Edman. And the reason for that is that those guys are both older, so they have more track record, or more history, and they have less control. But the point is, Tommy Edman has put up a 5-WAR season now, like a year ago. So, like, he's pretty valuable. You play all over the place and all that. At the same time, Brendan Donovan has a better offensive profile than Edman does, and he also plays like a million positions, even though not the same like set up the middle ones that Edman.
Right, same level, yeah.
But yeah, he's also very versatile, and he hits better, and he's younger and under control for longer. So they might prefer to trade Edman, they might even be able to get more for him. Uh, and then out of the reason I think O'Neal is simply because I think they're kind of done with him, and I think he's kind of done with the Cardinals. So it's one of those you might as well get rid of him. But I don't know, the way they treat Dylan Carlson seems kind of bizarre to me too.
Well, that is a good point, because they just brought O'Neal back from his 60-day IL as well, and so that is going to create kind of a conflict out in the outfield for sure with him coming back. And so we're going to especially with putting him potentially in the starting spot over maybe Carlson, so it'll be interesting. So that definitely creates some sort of conflict there, so I could see something happening, no doubt. That's a very good point.
Yeah, because they got a clear room at those areas for sure.
Yep.
And if it's me, I'm looking to trade Burleson too, or possibly DeYoung. Of course, if you trade DeYoung, then you need to keep Edman, because I don't think you can just trade both of them and pray to God that Mason Wynn doesn't bust. You know what I'm saying? So you got to keep one of each one of those.
Yeah, and OJ, I think that's good. Honestly, I've said it before that I believe that DeYoung needs to be shopped for sure. At least the Cardinals need to be aggressive getting rid of him. He's a bloated contract that you don't need. He's obviously not getting the playing time, really. I mean, he's a DH, but he's also kind of on the rise. But last year he was terrible. And by on the rise, I mean that he's just been hitting better as of late. So I think that has a higher profile. He might have a higher value going into this deadline than he will, say, after the season or anything like that. That Mason Wynn's still coming. I would love to be able to keep Tommy Edman, because he's still good. He might not be as good defensively, but he's much better of an offensive profile, at least for the past 2 years, than DeYoung has been. Again, DeYoung's been hitting the ball pretty well, but the versatility also of Edman really helps out. So I think that's a very good point, OJ. I think that you're 100% right too about O'Neal. I think that I think he has better trade value than Carlson in certain lights. And what I mean by that is the fact that he's won a Gold Glove. You know what I mean? So, and he's, I think, faster than Carlson too.
He's had an MVP caliber season already. I mean, it's
so maybe it just needs to change. Yeah,
people. I could see how someone would say, "Oh, well, this guy's got way higher upside than Carlson. They might value him more." So
exactly.
Yeah. Personally, I like Carlson.
More speed and everything.
I know O'Neal has a Gold Glove, but it's in left field, and O'Neal is an impressive defender for a left fielder. But he can't play center field. Carlson can play center field, so that's why I like Carlson better.
Yeah, and that's an interesting take. I do like the fact that being a switch hitter too, in Carlson, that is something else that adds to it. I don't know. There's something about speed that you can't teach speed, right? That's the old analogy. So I like that kind of versatility with Tyler O'Neal. That if you need a pinch runner kind of thing, even if it's his off day, but at the same time, I don't know. I think that Carlson has a better mindset right now, and he has more emotional attachment to the Cardinals, to your point, that I don't think O'Neal has right now.
Yeah, and I don't know. Carlson seems to get hurt less than Tyler O'Neal too, but
that's a good point too. Well, it's going to be interesting to see what this trade deadline, brings here for the Cardinals. Hopefully, we can get some trading pieces, and that Mo can kind of work some magic. But we'll see how everything goes there. Let's transition here to some soccer and some big soccer news with both women and men's. Let's start with the women's here, and that is that the FIFA Women's World Cup is upon us, and actually a few games have already been played. This is actually happening out in a combination between Australia and New Zealand. So I think it was actually originally supposed to be in New Zealand, and then New Zealand's like, hey, we're not going to be able to host this ourselves, and so then Australia said, yeah, just we'll help you out. I can't remember if that is the case or if there was like a joint bid or anything like that. But an interesting fact about this World Cup is that FIFA, for the past World Cups, have always planned and had bidding done for each of the World Cups together, essentially from nations and then from like vendors and stuff like that. But because of all the push now for women, be treated equal in the sports, and especially in FIFA, they have separated them out completely. So this one is completely separate than the men's. So it's pretty cool because now it's completely like its own thing, and it doesn't have anything to do with the men's when it comes to bids and all that stuff. So it's pretty cool. Take a look at the preview here. They did it just like, and they've actually expanded it too, which is awesome. So now they have a full World Cup roster. And there are 8 groups. So in Group A, you have New Zealand, Philippines, Switzerland, Norway. The second group, Group B, here you have Australia, Nigeria, Canada, Ireland. Group C, Spain, Costa Rica, Zambia, Japan. Group D, England, Denmark, China, Haiti. Group E, the United States, Vietnam, Netherlands, Portugal. Group F, France, Jamaica, Brazil, Panama. Group G, you have Sweden, South Africa, Italy, Argentina, and Group H has Germany, Morocco, Colombia, and South Korea. So it's pretty cool to see that they're having all these, again, a full World Cup roster. Normally, it's been, it's like 8 less teams, essentially. So they're trying to get better with it comes to the qualifiers and everything. So let me ask you just, guys, going into this, before we even get to the previews, are you guys going to be watching any of this? Or are you guys
I actually watched this morning. I actually watched Australia and Republic of Ireland this morning, early this morning. Actually. So yeah.
And my Irish girls lost.
Almost had the equalizer there at the end, very close.
Yeah.
The 95th minute or whatever, but it was a good game. But Australia pulled ahead with the win. But I've been watching.
Yeah, and good for the Aussies too. They're very good as well.
For sure.
I have quite a few family friends that live in Australia, so it's kind of one of those things. I got to go for my kinsmen and the Irish.
And I had a feeling, of the two, that Australia, of course, going to come out of that one for sure. But anyway,
I was kind of feeling.
But it's been fun. Already starting to watch them, so I plan on watching.
OJ, what about you? Are you going to be watching?
I guess I'll start now that I know about it.
That is something that does happen when it comes to the Women's World Cup. It kind of sneaks up on you because there's not as much publicity around it, to be quite honest with you. The only publicity that women's soccer has gotten lately is the all about the wage war that's been going on for it. So it's interesting, but it's just started, and I think our first game is tomorrow, right? Tomorrow at 8 p.m. Central.
I believe so. Let me check the time. It is 8 p.m. Yes, I knew it was tomorrow, but I didn't remember the time. But us versus Vietnam.
I usually only watch our matches, so.
Yeah, well, you can watch tomorrow on Fox.
Right.
Cool. There you go. I will be watching.
Let's get to some predictions here, and I don't know if you guys. I don't really watch too much women's soccer. But I try to watch definitely Team USA when they play because they are a lot of fun, and honestly they'll stomp most teams. So it's kind of like a foregone conclusion watching them, but they are just so much. There's just so much talent on that, and sometimes it's like that's how the men should play. Just look at how tactically they're so sound. But you know how it is. Everything moves much faster and a lot more experience and stuff like that, at least in the men's game for the most part. But let's take a look at it. So in Group A, let's get to some predictions here. Group A, we have New Zealand, Philippines, Switzerland, and Norway. Adam, what are your 2 teams that you have coming out of that group?
I think out of Group A, I think New Zealand and the Philippines are going to be coming out of that on top over Switzerland and Norway. I think they're pretty popular picks, and that's who I'm going to have coming out of that as well.
Yeah, and I think that, Adam, you're 100% that, New Zealand has that high pick because obviously one of their hosting teams, and the Philippines
absolutely
definitely looks strong. OJ, do you have anybody else coming out of this one? Obviously, you said you didn't even know it was happening, right?
Yeah, so I'm not well versed on the strengths of the teams or anything like that.
Right. Well, no worries there. I mean, so for Group A, like the way that I took a look at it, I had New Zealand as well, but the Philippines look good, but I think Switzerland is going to be able to make a run for it. Apparently, the women's team has been doing pretty well in like the UEFA qualifiers and stuff like that. So it's one of those things that it could be Philippines. Hell, it could even be Norway, right? You just don't
It could
know.
be. Well, it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see, especially coming up next Tuesday, because New Zealand's actually going to be facing the Philippines, and so it'll be interesting to see, who's a stronger contender out of that as well. Because I want to see, like, that's where I'm a little bit concerned as far as who's going to be the ranked number one. Where I think New Zealand will probably be triumphant, but it'll be interesting with the Philippines. So I'm going to be interested.
Yeah,
I'd be
for sure.
definitely interested in that game.
So who do you have coming out of Group B? I'll tell you that for me, I definitely had
Well, Australia for sure.
Ireland. See, this is the thing. So I went with an upset here. I went with Ireland and Canada.
Really?
Now that being
Wow.
said, I didn't know that Ireland. Again, like when I was preparing this, I'm going off of what I had going into it. So I thought that Ireland was going to win over Australia, but I had Canada as kind of like a wild card. I mean, they played very well against the United States women's team the past couple of times they played them. So I don't know. I think that they have a deep run in them, but they are in a very tough group.
Yeah, so I think Canada has a real shot at coming out of this for sure. But honestly, looking at Nigeria and Ireland, I think Australia is no doubt going to be, coming out of this, whether it's in the first or second.
Right. Well, who do you have in the next group, in Group C?
Group C for me, looking at this, I would say probably Spain and
So I'll
maybe I'll go with it. I'm going to go with
well.
I'm going to go with you have Spain as well.
Upset.
I might go with it a little bit of an upset here and go with Zambia.
I don't pick Zambia too. I want to see them win because obviously
it'd be fun,
African country.
For sure. I think it'd be fun.
Be awesome.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think Spain's definitely coming out of it. There's no doubt. But I think it'd be cool to see Zambia come out of this as well.
Yeah. I'm going to say
Costa Rica. Yeah, that's a pretty safe bet, I think.
Yeah. And Japan.
Costa Rica and Japan. Yeah. Okay, interesting. Not having Spain coming out of that. Okay.
Spain's going to get crushed.
We'll see what ends up happening, man. Spain is a very good women's soccer team right now. So they're actually, I think, like number 2 in the world compared to the United States. But again, anything can happen in the World Cup. We've seen it.
Sure.
So.
Absolutely.
That's very interesting.
That's the beauty of sport.
All right. Yeah, it is the beauty of sport. Let's head to Group D. I'll go ahead and start here, guys. So out of Group D, I have England and China coming out of that group.
I also have England, but I have Haiti instead of China.
A little upset there. All right.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, but I definitely think England. But I'm going to go with Haiti.
Yeah, I
Anybody different for you, OJ?
I assume England has a studly soccer team for their women also. So I'll go England. I'm just going to pick the Danes just for fun.
There you go.
Denmark.
There you go. Some Denmark. Yeah.
Yeah.
No one.
So.
Yeah. What about Group E? I think everybody's going to have one of those teams.
USA.
United States, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, can't go against USA even if they weren't the best team in the world.
Yeah, we're going with USA. I mean, they're looking for their three-peat, so let's go. And I think out of that, you're going to have Vietnam as well.
Ooh, Vietnam. Choosing Vietnam. I got the Netherlands. What about you, OJ?
We're going to go Portugal. Actually, before either anything, I select Portugal. So
there you go. All right. Yeah, Portugal does have a good women's team. I just think the Netherlands might be able to make a run. Who knows? Then we got the Group F. OJ, you want to start us off with Group F?
Well, let's see. I mean, Brazil and France.
Two big powerhouses, right?
Yeah.
I went against Brazil. I definitely taken France, but I have Jamaica. I don't know. Yeah. For some reason, I have like a weird feeling about Jamaica.
I have Jamaica and France. So I think Jamaica won, France second. That's my prediction.
I mean, they can figure out how to field a bobsled team. I figure they
damn right. Let's go Jamaica.
Cool running, baby. All right. What about Group G. I'll start this one here. I got
G.
Italy and Sweden.
I have South Africa and Sweden.
South Africa is a very good team, actually. So I wouldn't be surprised.
I have them probably ranked first and then Sweden. That's what I'm going to go with.
Yeah, I have Italy, then Sweden for my ranking. What about you, OJ?
South Africa, because that's where Blom is from, that plays for St. Louis.
That city,
and then Italy.
Okay. And then let's go with the last group here. Adam, who you got for the last group in Group H?
Deutschland and Colombia.
Yeah, that's exactly what I have too. What about you, OJ?
Well, I'll definitely take Germany and also Colombia.
Yeah, we're all in agreement.
At least for this one, I mean, like Morocco is an okay team, but those like Germany and Colombia seem to be the two teams to beat for sure.
Yep.
When you just look at soccer power, like, come on now.
Yeah, I'm going Deutschland for sure on this one.
All right, and let's ask the very simple question here. I'll start with you, OJ. Who do you have hoisting the World Cup at the end of this tournament?
USA.
What was that?
USA. Did you need me to say it again?
Yeah, I'll say it again as well for you, just to repeat. USA, right? And Adam, I'm assuming USA for you as well?
No, we're going to go Zambia.
That'd be good for them, right?
Dude, that would be wild, wouldn't it? Freaking Zambia out of nowhere.
I wonder what kind of odds are on them. You can probably get some pretty stick odds.
Yeah.
I'll put $5 down on Zambia, and I'm gonna walk out with $5,000.
Yeah.
No, I'm going TV.
Right here.
I'm going USA for the 3-peat.
Zambia is not even the worst odds. So they are plus 50,000. The worst odds to win this are Vietnam and the Philippines at plus 4,500 or 450,000. Jesus.
Okay.
What?
Wow.
So you 900K if you put $2 down on it? Is that what that is?
What?
Dude, I guess so. Yeah.
If that's the case, I'm just gonna do it. It's like $2. What's the worst that can happen? I mean, people blow more money on Powerball for $1 billion, right now.
Yeah.
Jesus.
It's probably like 100 down. Get you that pay. Something like that.
Just saying.
Well, yeah. I mean, so if $100 down, then you're blowing it. If you win, then it changes your life literally.
Oh my God.
Jesus Christ.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like that's
$45 million.
Worth taking a run at. I mean,
well, there you go.
It could happen.
It definitely could. Probably not.
Or what was that?
Not probable, but it's possible, I guess.
Yeah. So.
All right, guys. Well,
but yes, we're all going
USA,
Team USA, right? Of course.
Yeah. So
I mean, how can you go against Team USA considering they've won the last two?
Right. But here's my thing about it is like we all kind of have this expectation of the women's the United States women's soccer team to be able to win every single time, right? And that's kind of the expectation, right? As we just said, for them to win it. But for them to win it all here and to expect that every time, is that fair? Is that fair for us to expect that every single time?
No.
Adam, let's start with you on that. I mean, what's your thoughts on it?
Not fair. Of course, it's not. It's not unfair. They're a great team and they have a consistent winning record. So the fact is we expect that they're going to do very well. So I don't think that's unfair at all.
Okay. What about you, OJ?
Well, I don't think it's unfair. I don't think they would think it's unfair. Like they set a high standard, set a high bar. So I mean, should I expect them to not achieve that?
Yeah, and so here's my thing about it is I believe it would be so like if they lost and a lot of people would probably attack their legacy, right?
Well, it depends on what level, like where you're talking about losing at. Are you talking about going to the final and losing there? Or are you talking about going out in like the first round? Like they don't even qualify. You know what I mean?
No, see, that's the thing about it. And that's the thing about it. I think that if they do not win, if they go to the finals and lose, let's say they lose to Spain, the second best team in the world right now. If they lose to them, I think a lot of people will still look at them at this point as losers, that they failed miserably. I'm not saying I would be that person. I'm sorry.
I don't think that, but
Well, see, and that's what I'm saying. I don't believe that, but I do believe that there would be some naysayers around that.
how can
I
you?
believe that
There
there
might.
would
Well, of
be.
course, there's naysayers of everything, but at the same time, it's like, come on, these guys won 2 cups in a row and then make it to a
Right.
final. I mean, and then just lose in one last game. I mean, you can't. Brady has worse odds than
Yeah.
this. You know what I mean? And they go
Yeah.
call
Like,
him a goat. You know, Jesus.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
And you're not
Like,
wrong. And it's super hard to do because it's one game and you're done. You know,
well, yeah,
it's
and
so
to go
hard to have that
3 in a
consistency.
row, 3
Yeah.
cups in a row, that doesn't happen. You know?
Yeah. It's a good point. I don't know. So again, I just don't want that to be the case, and I really don't want there to be, a giant pushback on, especially the equal pay and stuff like that. But we'll have to see. And speaking of the equal pay, let's kind of get into that here. So I think that if anybody's been around, just the sports scene in the past 3 to 4 years here, there's been obviously this huge push for women to be paid the same amount as men in soccer, right? And I firmly believe that they should be. They have a better results than the men's. Year in and year out. Obviously, the level of competition around the women's national teams compared to United States is just not there. Although it's getting closer, and it's funny because where all the rest of the world in the women's soccer seems to be getting closer now to the United States, I feel the United States soccer for the men's side is getting closer to other nations around the world when it comes to their level of competitiveness, right? But I this is where I really struggle with it, right? I look at this and I want women to be able to be paid the same amount, but at the same time, one of these products makes a lot more money and the other one doesn't make as much money, OJ,
Mhm.
what's your kind of opinion on that? I mean, obviously, I'm assuming you probably believe that they should be able to get, equal pay, but is that actually feasible to happen?
Well, my understanding with uh, so this is a little while back now that I'm thinking of, but my understanding was they were under different contracts compared to the men's team, like that they bargained for. Like they basically, what I remember seeing people saying was that the women's team had basically negotiated for a more consistent income, but with less incentive or less incentives and stuff, so they can't, if
Right,
they
more
win,
guarantees, yes.
yeah, more guaranteed money, but less overall payout possible, And the men's team went for the high payout because they all were making money in the leagues they play in for the most part, They're so they
Right.
don't really need it, so they just go for the big thing. Um, so basically, like, it doesn't even make sense for them to complain about their pay if that's the case, that's what they bargained for. But I
Yeah,
don't
it
know.
is interesting because that is one of the big topics going into this World Cup was that FIFA announced just pretty much like 2 or 3 days before the World Cup started that they cannot guarantee how the club that the nation essentially is going to divvy out any tournament prize money. They're guaranteed to be paid 30. Each player is guaranteed to be paid at least 30,000 um for the entire tournament. Right now there are going to be players that will be getting paid more. Like I think the women's get paid because obviously United States has more money, but I think it's because of the way they allocate. I think they get paid a little bit higher. I could be wrong, but I think they get paid like 50,000 or something like that. They could even be paid more. I don't know. But there, when it comes to their prize money, the FIFA said that we have no jurisdiction about that. So like essentially we write a check to the nation like that wins it or whatever, and they can do with it how they please. They could give it
Mhm.
all to the players or they can keep some of it and then give some to the players. Um,
But
it's
but
it's
at
a,
the
a
end of
big
the
topic right
day,
now.
is you have to look at the total prize money though for each. So and so basically the issue is that the women, as they were saying, make like 25 cents to every man's dollar, and it really looks at, if you look at the total prize money, it literally equals that. The total prize money for women's World Cup is 110 million compared to a 440
Right.
million for the men. So it's literally a quarter. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that gets
And
back
so
to
go ahead.
the whole economics of it. I mean, it really is. I mean, just because you're insanely talented and like the best in your field at something doesn't mean that it's gonna make you money. Like that's just the reality
You're
of
right.
life.
You have to take a look at
Yeah.
total revenue, and I think that that's where you have to you can base a lot of this on is like if you can prove out a case that says total revenue is this amount and the prize money is this percentage of that total revenue per se, and it's very unfair to the women, I can see their argument by far. But I think a lot of it does have to get tied back to total revenue though, and maybe
Yeah.
some sort of
Yeah,
percentage to that as well. You know what I mean? So that way at
and
least
I
it's in the
think that
ballpark.
right, and I think that a lot of people don't understand that. They think that they look at it through one like different colored lenses in the
Hmm.
actual in the real facts. They believe that women's soccer and men's soccer bring in the same revenue, that they're just paying women less, and that's not the case here. Adam, I talked to you about this obviously not terribly too long ago, but I got in this huge debate with this person on Reddit that I'm assuming is a woman and a feminist about how they should be getting paid more. And I said, listen, I completely understand that they should be getting paid the same amount as men. 100%. I am not arguing against that.
Hmm.
The argument comes from, is it fair to have the expectations to pay the women the same amount when then all of a sudden the league doesn't have enough money to run its duties, right? When
Right.
no one else is getting paid, they don't make enough. And I said, you also need to not just put the blame on FIFA. Everybody always puts the blame on FIFA directly. They need to put the blame also when it comes to the sponsors. Coca-Cola needs to be held more responsible for that as well, of saying, hey, okay, I'm going to write you guys a check. Talking to FIFA, I'm going to write you a check. Here's $1 million for, I'm going to give you guys in Coke products in money for the tournament, whatever. However, I want it allocated 800, or 80% over here for the men and 20% for the women, because that's how they used to do it. Now that they have separated them out completely, it's under completely different jurisdictions. But at the same time, Coke is looking at their investment saying, okay, we know how many people watch the men's compared to the women's. So we're not going to put all this money that we get to the women's, because it's not a good ROI for us, And I explained to the woman that, what put Apple on the map, right? It wasn't even Macintosh PCs. It was the iPod. Like once the iPod came out, they had great marketing around it, and everybody had to have an iPod. One of Apple's main competitors is Microsoft. Microsoft created the Zune, but no one even knew what the Zune was, right? So if you were trying to, if you were Best Buy, which one of those are you going to buy more of? You're going to buy the iPod because people want the iPod. They don't want the Zune. You know what I mean? So it is. I'm not trying to put down women's sport or anything, but or anything like that. But it's just the realization of it. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why I said take a percentage of the revenue and analyze it that way. I think is going to be important, because the fact is that if you're not bringing in the revenue, then you can't pay, and that's true like that of any business. If you work for a small business that's or a failing business that's not making much money, the pay is just not going to be there compared to a large business that's being very profitable. They can afford to pay their employees a lot more money. So I'm not saying that it's a bad product. It's just that the demand may not be there compared to men. The fact is, but there's a lot of different perspectives of why there is a pay gap. But a lot of it, I think, comes down to revenue for sure.
For sure. OJ,
And it looks like there's been some. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, OJ. If you had to say something.
No, I was just agreeing with you.
Okay, gotcha.
I got you. Adam, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, but I know that earlier this year that they actually made there was a judgment against them there. They had to pay like a lot of back pay from what I remember to Team USA. Several million, like 20 some odd million. I forgot what it was. I'm trying to find it back. But anyway, so they tried to equal it out. They tried to make an honest effort to, provide them with a bigger prize per se. And they also have increased from like 2019 to now. They definitely have increased the prize pool substantially from what it used to be. I'm not saying it's there yet, but I feel like there have been some movement towards trying to get in that direction. I'm not saying they're not gonna be able to snap their fingers and say, okay, like for like tomorrow. It's not gonna happen. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm being a realist here. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, let's
But
be realistic here when it comes to the ticket sales. I mean, you literally have and I don't remember what it actually is, but I'm just going to say the equivalent of the president of New Zealand that is pleading for people to buy tickets before like the day of, and the
yeah,
president of FIFA saying the same
yeah,
thing.
I saw that.
And
Yeah,
and
they're pleading with New Zealand fans like, do the right thing, buy the tickets, blah blah. And let's face it, they don't have to plead for World Cup tickets, whenever the men come over to
never,
town, because
yeah.
those tickets are always bought up, and they're very expensive, and they don't have to plead for anything. But anyway, yeah, I'm looking at the average ticket price here, for example. So like category 1 for an adult, the most expensive for the opening match is $80. The cheapest ticket in category 3 is $30. So it goes 30, 50, 80, and that's for the opening match. And then of course those go down, whenever they get to like, for example, the group stage or whatever, where the most
like a random
they go
group
anywhere
stage,
from like $20, $30, $40 for an adult.
So
like these
listen,
tickets are hell, even at the final match, the most expensive ticket in category 1 is $120 for an adult. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that itself, it's the ticket prices just are not there, to justify.
I always put it in this perspective, right? So there has been in St. Louis, there has been a La Liga and not Premier, oh my gosh, and Series A teams that have played against the friendly here in St. Louis. That was Real Madrid versus Inter Milan.
Mm-hmm.
That was way back in the day, like 2013. They played it's still at the time they were at Jonestown, right? And then the women's soccer team played an expedition game here. I can't remember who they played, but they played at Busch Stadium. And then obviously just recently, the United States men team played in City Park for one of the qualifiers for the Concacaf Gold Cup, right?
Yeah.
I took a look at some analysis here. So when I paid for my tickets for Real Madrid, I was in the upper decks because, again, this was in the Dome. It was completely sold out, first and foremost. I was in the 400s, and I paid $120 to see Real Madrid, my team that I like in La Liga, play. When I went to the women's at Busch Stadium, it was $10. I'm not even joking. And we could have paid for closer tickets. That would have been $50. That would have been like in the first couple of rows off the field. But they were $10. And when I looked at the men's just recently, they were $50 to $80. So one of these things is not like the other, right? Obviously you have everyone goes to want to see talent, and they want to see the best overall performance, right? I mean, that's why you'll pay to go see a good actor in a movie compared to a bunch of B actors you've never heard of, right? And that's where it's at. I paid a lot of money to go see Real Madrid play, and I still went to the women's game, but no one's going to pay $180 to see them play, especially if you're in the upper deck. You know what I mean?
And let's face it, men's sports are traditionally more popular because of that. They're more physical and aggressive, which appeals to to fans.
Yeah. So as much as I want to, but as much as I want this to happen where they're getting paid the exact same, it is what it is right now, and until they can get some more revenue in and stuff like that, I think the way that it is not fair as it is. It's the only way the business can survive. You know what I mean?
And the other thing is,
from that point of view too.
And the other thing is about one of the reasons why I feel that there are men's sports are more popular is because the great, I shouldn't say that, let's just say the vast majority of people that are viewing sports or going to sporting events, especially like this. I obviously there are a lot of women that do, and there are a lot of women supporters. I'm not saying there aren't, but there are predominantly, I think, a larger viewership from men who usually watch men's sport, that they get, they look at that as, something that they can kind of relate to. Whereas a lot of men view women playing sports as little, is they just can't, they're not connecting as often, is what I'm saying. They can connect, and they feel that men playing sports, they can relate to that versus more than women playing sports. And the fact is that men have a tendency to probably make up a little bit more of the fan population per se than women do typically in sports.
Well, and it's funny. So I'll quote Bill Burr from his special at Red Rock, right? Why, as a man, do I have to care about women's sports when women don't care about women's sports? A prime example of that is my sister, who loves basketball to death. She wanted to be a basketball player, played varsity all 4 years of her high school career. She went to a lot of camps, including with Jason Tatum's camp. I believe she met him too. So she loves the game, but when she watches the game, it's the NBA. She doesn't watch the WNBA. Some of that has to do with the fact that the games are more readily available for the NBA, but it's just because of the fact that it's the NBA. That's where you're going to have have a lot more action, so to speak.
Yeah.
Seeing people do improbable things all the time. Not to say these women are not talented, not to say that they cannot do it, because they could kick my ass. You know what I mean? But there's it's just a difference between the two competitive levels. You know what I mean?
For sure. It's just a more popular thing, and that's when it all comes down to it.
Yeah.
So, and it's not saying that that's sexist because it's a more popular product, but it is what it is.
Well, definitely, as you said, it is what it is. Now, let's go ahead and switch here to off of the Women's World Cup here, and obviously their pay issues and stuff like that. And let's talk a little bit about the League Cup that is going to be MLS and the Liga, excuse me, not La Liga, but MLS and Liga MX. So for anybody who does not know, this is the tournament that's going to be happening between the MLS teams and the La Liga MX team. So the La Liga MX is going to be the equivalent, like the Mexican equivalency of the MLS here. They broke it down kind of weird in the tables, right? They have the West, they have the North, they have the East, and they have the Central. In the West, they have I believe, how many groups? Three groups, right? Yeah, and then four groups in the Central, four groups in the South, and four groups in the East. So kind of crazy that the West is going to be a little bit, I guess, lighter, but it is what it is. The way it works too is the last Liga MX team that won, which was Puchana, they get an automatic bye, so they will be in the next round. And the same thing with the MLS. So that is Los Angeles FC, who last year beat Galaxy, if I remember correctly. And so those guys are all in. Then they seeded a bunch of teams based on how well they did last season, and then there's unseeded teams that are for the MLS teams is like teams that didn't make the playoffs, and obviously St. Louis City. It's I think the same thing with the Liga MX guys. So what's your expectations going into the League Cup here? Do you think this is going to be exciting? OJ, we'll start with you here. I mean, are you looking forward to watching some of these games?
Yeah, as long as St. Louis is winning, I would be watching.
Right.
It will definitely be exciting because if you haven't heard as well, Lionel Messi will be making his debut in the League Cup as well on the 21st, which is tomorrow, actually. So I know the ticket prices are ridiculous right now because everybody wants to see Messi, and this is his big debut here in the U.S. So.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too. So I think that the way they're doing it, I don't know if they're playing these at neutral sites or if they're not. I think they would have to be playing these at neutral sites. But anyways, I know that Atlanta, for example, it plays on turf, and Messi, who has never played on turf and has always said he will not play on turf, has requested MLS teams to change from turf to natural grass for at least the games that he's playing in. And it sounds like a lot of MLS teams are going to bend over for him and allow that to happen. But Atlanta said, hell no.
Like, I'm sorry, but how does he get to decide that in the MLS?
Yeah,
I don't believe that.
I'm telling you right now, I just read an article about it last night about that.
How does he get to decide that?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Whether
saying. Because
I mean, I know he's
well, and
messy, but he doesn't mean shit right now to some other team. I mean, I can understand in Miami, but like, if I'm St. Louis, I'm just saying, like if I was St. Louis in that situation, I'd be like, no. And what are you going to do about it?
yeah, and
Not play?
I'm telling
Okay,
you,
great. That's even better for us than if you don't play. You know what I mean?
well,
Like, what?
it's better for you in the fact that you have a chance of winning, but it's also bad that you
Yeah.
could be missing a giant jackpot in revenue from people, buying tickets for that game
St. Louis already
specifically.
said you don't show up to St. Louis with a Messi jersey either. So St. Louis is
Yeah.
pretty much hard
Well,
no, a hard pass on Messi right now. We can fill the stadium
I love
without
how,
Messi right now. You
yeah,
know what I mean? We
but
don't
I
need him
love
in St.
how
Louis. No offense.
that literally made it onto USA Today, by the way. And that was the
Uh,
headline. They're not allowing them into the stadium. I'm like, you guys are dumbasses. It's not
well,
the
they're not
stadium.
allowing them in
It was
the
the
supporter
support
section,
section,
and that's a
which is a
standard
small
for
portion of the stadium. Exactly.
and that is the standard across the board. You can't go into this in the supporter section representing another
Right.
team. 100%.
Right.
That's
So
absolutely a
they just
no-no.
blew it out of proportion. I thought that was the stupidest thing,
Yeah.
but whatever.
No, but the fact is that St. Louis can be like, yeah, we don't really give a shit, and like, we can fill the stadium without you, dude. So anyway, just saying, not to be a little cocky towards Messi, but what are you gonna do about it?
Yeah, no kidding. But I don't know, man.
We don't need you,
It's kind of
bro.
crazy. Right. So we'll see what ends up happening. Going
they
okay.
actually, that's real.
I can't believe
I
that.
think it was real.
That's
No,
unbelievable.
It's like
I couldn't
they're
believe
bidding
I mean, I'm
over for
sorry, but
that.
I
know.
kind of lose respect for somebody that's going to
agree.
be acting like that. I mean, that's shitty. Like, you're going to
Agree,
do it
dude.
my way. I mean, that's such a douchey move.
Like, I get it that you don't like turf, but tough shit. Like, I'm not
Well,
gonna.
then you suck
Like,
as a
imagine,
player. Then you know what I mean. Like,
yeah.
learn to adapt. You know what I mean?
Well, like,
Like, I'm not
and
saying
so
that Messi
like,
sucks as a player, but like, bro, it is what it is.
yeah, like you chose to come here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure a
Like,
lot of people hated to come to St. Louis, and we were on turf as well, but you had to do it.
yeah,
It wasn't like you had a choice,
yeah.
you know? So they were like, no, I'm not going to play the Rams in St. Louis. They have turf. Okay. Like, what the hell? It's ridiculous. Anyway.
Well, think of all the money that it would take to get Atlanta to have natural grass in their stadium.
Right.
Where were you gonna get
I'm
that from?
Atlanta, and I
You know
tell
what I
them to
mean? Like,
kiss my ass. I'm like, all right,
yeah.
Messi, you going to write us a check?
Yeah.
Unbelievable, man. Oh,
You're gonna
man.
fly us to Argentina to play.
Jeez Louise.
Anyways.
Anyway, well,
Yeah.
I don't give a shit
All
about
right,
Messi
so
right now. Then screw him.
let's take a look at the preview here. So I'll just go quickly through it on the tables of what it is. So in the West, there are 3 divisions, and the top 2 in each of these divisions goes on. So in West 1, you have Portland, UANL, which is one of the Mexican or the Liga MX teams, San Jose. West 2, you have Real Salt Lake, Monterrey, and Seattle. West 3, you have LA Galaxy, Leon, and Vancouver. In Central 1, you have Columbus, America. So not United States of America, but there's actually a team called America. And unfortunately, Club America is one of the best in Liga MX. And the reason why I say unfortunately is the 3rd team in Central 1 is St. Louis City.
In ours, yeah.
The good news is I believe we can beat Columbus. So it's like that's the only thing I say about that one.
I looked it up, and I think that Club America is actually like 12th in the Mexican League this year. Like, they're having a rough time.
Yeah, but I think it's because of injuries. And I also believe that they got a lot of their players back because they've been on break for a minute. But like just you, I'm sorry.
I said, oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's not like oh my god, like this team is what it was, but just looking at like their history, for example, they have the most final appearances. They have 23 of them. Most appearances in the playoffs, most runner-up finishes of 10, and also the most wins as well. They also won a Concacaf Giants Cup. They've won 2 Copa Interamericana Cups, so that's between Mexico and the some of the leagues like in Argentina and Brazil and stuff like that. So I mean they've won quite a few. I think they've won 6 Copa so like Liga MX Cups essentially. But they're a good team, and a lot of people have them as a potential favorite to win it, not win it all. So who knows, at this point, but yeah. Yeah. Anyways, Central 2 is the next group, and that's Minnesota, and it's Puebla, and Chicago. Then Central 3 has Cincinnati, Guadalajara, and KC. Central 4, you have Nashville, Toluca. It's Toluck.
Yeah, Toluca.
Yeah, Toluca.
Okay. And then Colorado. In the South, you have South 1, you have Austin, you have Mazarizan, and then Juarez. South 2, you have Orlando City, Santos Laguna, Houston. South 3, it's Miami, Cruz Azul, Atlanta. South 4, you have Dallas, Nexa, and Charlotte. East 1, you have Philly, Tijuana, and then is it Puerto Rico? Cortaro?
Oh,
I'm looking at you, Ali.
Juanrito? Trying to think.
Guerrero.
Guetro?
Got to put the emphasis on the E because it's got the accent.
That's what I'm saying, OJ. I know you took Spanish. I took French. So this is.
I took American.
You took German, and we know it.
Sprechen Sie Deutsch.
Anyway, yeah. East 2, you have Montreal, UNAM, and DC. East 3, you have NYC FC, so New York City FC, Atlas, Toronto. East 4, you have a New York Red Bulls, Atletico, and New England. So a lot of teams, obviously, that are in it. But it's cool because it's going to be all teams are going to be included.
Oh yeah.
But there's quite a few more teams in MLS compared to Liga MX. There's 18 in Liga, and in MLS there's 29. So let's get like a few predictions here before we sign off for the podcast here. OJ, I want to start with you. I mean, OJ, I'm assuming that you got City, but is there anybody else that you feel that can make a deep run for this?
Well, guess Club America.
Yeah.
Let's see. I mean, otherwise, I guess maybe LAFC.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I don't think is Cincinnati in this?
Yes, Cincinnati is in
Yeah,
this.
they're in there.
Oh yeah, there they are. I'll go ahead and put them on there. Almost certainly not Sporting Kansas City.
No,
no,
not at all.
Not so much. Not so much.
They're gonna
Not so much.
embarrass the MLS is what they're gonna do.
Stick with football, Casey.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
The other football. The other football.
The other football, exactly. Hey,
So,
Manny football, not the David Beckham football.
Not football.
I'm not too familiar with the Mexican teams, but I know they tend to be better, so probably plenty of them will make it through that I didn't mention. So
Yeah. That's kind of the way I looked at it as well, was, yes, there's more MLS teams. I do believe there's a little bit more quality in Liga, especially, but from what I've been reading too, is Liga is like very top heavy. So like the first like top 4 teams are like absolutely phenomenal, and then everybody else is kind of like muddling, so to speak. But who knows what that comparison is with MLS now,
Yeah.
Yeah. Adam, what about you? Who do you see coming out of this?
Yeah, I definitely say Club America as well. LA, Monterrey.
Yeah, Monterrey is pretty good too.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Tigers, which the UANL, the Tigers. Yeah, that'd be like my top 4.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of everybody's kind of hit on everybody that I had. The only one that I can maybe say maybe an exception is Seattle, but I don't know. It's going to be a crapshoot.
Yeah, Seattle has a chance.
Teams.
Yeah.
But I see more, honestly, like I think that the City is going to be able to make it past the group stage. I see them maybe winning their first one. I don't really see them winning their second after that.
They're not going to be able to get it that very far, unfortunately. I don't think.
Yeah. But who knows? I mean, we also said that they're going to finish worse than the MLS, and here they are leading the West or the East.
Hear me wrong.
So,
I would love that. But at the same
or the
time,
West,
Tigers
not the East,
are.
I mean. I was right.
But at the same time, the Tigers are also, like one of the, I'm sorry, not the Tigers. They're facing America. I meant to say them. America, Club America is also like one of the top predictions, to win. They have the best odds per se to win.
And
So it's going to be very, very hard.
Yeah, if they don't have a good game against Columbus, then it's going to be really world hurt. They have to win against Columbus, I think, to
absolutely.
Advance.
That's a must win, and then against America is going to be very, very tough for sure. But we'll see.
Yeah. Should be fun. That happens here. Actually, I think that starts tomorrow.
I was going to say we have a lot of soccer, but it won't be MLS soccer for a little while. So we have the League Cup and then also the Women's World Cup. So a lot of other soccer to be watching for a little while.
Yes, sir. Gonna be fun though.
Yes, indeed.
We'll see how everything continues, and we'll go from there. All right, guys. Let's head here to our sign off. Adam, why don't you tell the good listeners here what our socials are and how they can contact us and keep up with the show?
The great listeners of the Hometown Losers can, of course, hit us up on Twitter at twitter.com/hometownlosers. That's LOUSERS. Or you can check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/thehometownlosers. Give us a like, comment on our post. We'd love to interact with you as always. We love our listeners, and we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Let us know what your expectations are for Team USA. What are your predictions as well going into both these soccer tournaments? Because obviously there is pretty much anybody right now that can win, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens out of that. Sure. OJ, what do you have for your game of the week?
I'll go with City against Columbus on Sunday at 6:30 p.m. for the
big game
match of the, as we just mentioned, League's Cup. Basically, must win. Whoever wins this game will advance, and the other one almost certainly won't. So,
indeed.
Yeah. So that's indubitably. So that's on Sunday at 6:30, right?
Sunday.
Yes.
All right. I'll probably be trying to watch that somewhere. Let's get a watch party going.
Yeah, I'm gonna be watching it for sure.
Yes, sir. All righty. Well, gentlemen, as always, it's great talking to you guys. It's still unbelievable to me that we're on session 30, and at 8 months doing this. So here's to the next 8 months and the next 30 sessions. So we appreciate all the listeners as well, helping us keep this going, and having again, a lot of fun listening in or getting the feedback from people as well too. So appreciate that. So check us out next week here on the Hometown Losers podcast. Have a great night, everybody.
This is OJ, and I wanted to thank you guys for listening to the equivalent of 3 dudes sitting at a bar talking about sports. We'll catch you next week on the Hometown Losers.